We reply that inflections of tone, just as with a flute, must not separately produce real names, phrases, and syllables. If only the sounds of speech can produce names, etc., then why not just admit that words alone can express? The Sarvastivadin asks, by what principle are you so certain that it is the words that express? We reply, how do you know that apart from words there exist separate entities that express? That words and expressors are the same, all humans and celestials know. He who grasps things that express apart from words must be crazy. The correct position is that in accordance with different states of vocal sounds, names, phrases, and syllables are conventionally established. Name expresses the essential nature of something, phrases express differences, and syllables are words that support names and phrases. Even though these three have no distinct substance apart from sound, the difference between conventional and real remains, and these three are not like sound, which is real.
In our system, there is a difference in the objects of the two kinds of all-pervasive analytical cognition, and therefore sound, along with names, etc., is included in the aggregates, sense bases, and sense fields, skandha, gayatana, dhatu, and differs in each. Furthermore, it is only in this Buddha world that we conventionally establish names, phrases, and syllables as dependent on sound. It is not the case in other Buddha worlds, because in those worlds, these three are established in dependence on light, odor, taste, etc. There is also a theory among some Buddhists that the propensities, anasuya, differ from mind and its activities and are not included among dharmas associated with mind. This is not reasonable, because those passions that are also anasuyas are not unassociated with mind. There is also a theory that there are other dharmas unassociated with mind, but this can be refuted by the same principle as before.
Also, the theory that there are real unconditioned dharmas apart from form, mind, etc., is unacceptable. Dharmas that exist can be classified in three ways. 1. Dharmas known by direct evidence, such as form and mind. 2. Dharmas that are clearly enjoyed, such as pots, clothing, etc. Everyone in the world knows that these things exist, and they do not have to be proved. The third consists of 3. Active, functioning dharmas, such as eyes, ears, etc., which we know exist because of the evidence of their functioning. But the world does not know that real unconditioned dharmas exist, because they do not function in the way that eyes and ears do. Besides, if you say that unconditioned dharmas function, then they are not eternal. Therefore unconditioned dharmas cannot be held to exist really. However, since unconditioned dharmas can be known, and since their nature is revealed through form, mind, and mental activities, you cannot establish a real nature of unconditioned dharmas apart from form, mind, etc.
Also, with reference to unconditioned dharmas, is space unitary or not? If its substance is unitary and extends everywhere, then since it harbors and receives forms, etc., then the substance of space must be multiple in accordance with the dharmas that occupy it, because the location occupied by one thing is not occupied by others. If that is not so, then all dharmas would interpenetrate. If, on the other hand, you say that space is not occupied by dharmas, then it cannot harbor and receive them, as in the case of other unconditioned dharmas. Also, is there a space within things or not? If there is confusion. If there is not, then space is not pervasive. With regard to the other two unconditioned dharmas, when one division or class of bonds is severed, in the cessation resulting from discrimination, pratisamkhya nirodha, then if this state is unitary one would obtain cessation as a result of discrimination of all bonds. The same is so of the cessation resulting from the absence of conditions, apratisamkhya nirodha. When a single condition is absent, then if this state is unitary all conditions would be absent. If, however, unconditioned dharmas are multiple, then they will be divided into classes and types and, like form, etc., will not be unconditioned. Moreover, space would not be pervasive and harbor and receive all things. Real unconditioned dharmas clung to by other Buddhist schools must be refuted in the same way. Finally, if you claim that unconditioned dharmas have no causes or effects, then they must be like the horns of a rabbit and non-existent apart from mind.
Scriptures say that there are 3 unconditioned dharmas, space, and the 2 kinds of cessation mentioned above. They are of 2 kinds. First, we may provisionally grant their existence as dependent on the transformation of consciousness. That is, one has heard the name of space, and the other two dharmas, and the characteristics of space, etc., arise through reflection. Through the power of habit, when mind, etc., appear, they appear in the form of these unconditioned dharmas. In the absence of change in the characteristics that appear in prior or subsequent appearances, we may conventionally speak of them as permanent. The second kind is that which is conventionally accepted as existing on the basis of the true nature of things, dharmata. That is, the ultimate reality that is revealed by emptiness, sunyata, and absence of self exists, does not exist, both exists and does not exist, and neither exists nor does not exist. It demolishes the processes of thought and language and is neither the same as dharmas nor different from them, etc. It is the true principle of dharmas, hence it is called the true nature of dharmas. It is called space, because it is free of all impediments. It is called cessation resulting from discrimination, because through the power of discrimination it ends various impurities and one understands thoroughly. Or, as a result of being revealed by the absence of conditions, it is called cessation resulting from the absence of conditions. Feelings of pleasure and pain are removed, so it is called immovable. It is called cessation of thought and feeling, samjnavedita nirodha, because thought and feeling are not active. These 5 unconditioned dharmas are provisionally established on the basis of ultimate reality. But ultimate reality itself is merely a provisionally granted name. To refute the idea that it does not exist, it is said to exist. To refute the idea that it does exist, it is said to be empty. But it must not be thought to be empty and illusory, so it is said to be real. Because this principle is not false or erroneous, it is said to be the ultimate nature of everything. It is also called the ultimate nature of everything, because it is not the same as the real, eternal Dharma called ultimate nature of everything, apart from form, mind, etc., of other schools. Thus none of the above unconditioned dharmas really exists.
Dharmas grasped by non-Buddhist schools and other schools of Buddhism do not really exist apart from mind and mental activities, because they are grasped in the same way that mind and mental activities are grasped by mind itself. The apprehension that grasps them does not have them as objects, because it grasps, like the apprehension that takes as an object this same intellect. Also, because mind and its activities arise in mutual dependence, they do not really exist, just as magical illusions do not. In order to refute the false attachment to a really existing realm exterior to mind and its activities, we teach that there is nothing but consciousness, vijvaplantra. But if one believes that consciousness only really exists, this is no different from attachment to external objects, and it remains attachment to dharmas. 7. Cessation of attachment to dharmas. Belief in dharmas is of 2 kinds, innate, and resulting from imagination. Innate attachment to dharmas results from an innate power of false perfuming existing from beginningless time and is always present in the individual. It does not arise from false teachings.